Hello everyone and welcome to the Transit Nomad family. In this video, I'll be sharing my London public transportation impressions after using it for 1 week. Before we get started, I'd like to let you know that I'm in London for a couple of weeks, but at the end of this trip, I'll be recording my final verdict video comparing London with other cities to help you decide if you should visit, while also saving you lots of time and money with practical tips on how to get the most out of your trip. This will be an exclusive video, but you can easily gain access to it by subscribing or donating any amount on buymeacoffee.com/transitnomad or through the link in the video description below. With that being said, let's begin discussing London public transportation. I am right now located at Oxford Street Station, which is one of the busiest and most popular destinations in London, with many different bus lines and the tube merging here. This is a major transfer point. It's also a good destination for shopping, walking around, and doing lots of different things in London. After using its public transportation for a few days, I noticed that they do have a problem with air conditioning. That's just kind of the main negative, I think, that stands out. This applies to buses and the tube and many different routes and many different bus models. I'm not sure if it's because they are trying to save the environment, or maybe it's because they had some problems with manufacturing, or maybe because it doesn't get very hot in London too often. Maybe they don't feel the need for good air conditioning inside the buses, inside the trains. This also applies to museums, some stores, and many other destinations. The air conditioning in London is either not functional or it's very weak to the point that you're not even sure if it's working or it's not working. Now, a couple of tips I have for you, in addition to just bringing lots of water, is also choosing your seat carefully, because when you're on the bus, sometimes in the back might be cooler than in the front. Sometimes downstairs might be cooler than upstairs. So if you are feeling hot, feel free to explore the bus a little bit, walk around inside and kind of see where's that sweet spot where the AC might be blowing, as that might help you feel a little bit more comfortable, especially if you're taking a longer ride or being stuck in traffic. They do also have different bus models. Some of them might have better AC than others. So that's just something to keep in mind. Let's begin walking here. It is a very crowded place, so I have to be careful. And now letting my partner know that we're going to be walking in that direction straight ahead. Believe it or not, this is not even the most crowded time. Right now it's still midday, closer to the rush hour. This location is so packed that you have to stand in line to get inside the tube. If you are not into crowds, London might not be the right place for you, at least not the city center. And that being said, it's very, very crowded on the tube as well, inside the trains, inside stations. When you're transferring from one line to another, it is very crowded, which is kind of something you would expect from a rapid transit system that is efficient, because it's moving a lot of people throughout town. But if you want to avoid crowds, I think taking the bus might be a better option, as it does not get as crowded inside buses usually, and you can take a sit and you don't have to share your space with as many people. So if you want to avoid crowds and you want to make your experience a little bit less stressful, taking the bus might be a slightly better option than taking the tube. Another advantage of using buses in London is the cost. Buses are cheaper. It is a flat fee of 175 British pounds, which 1 British pound is about 1.3 American dollars at the time of recording this video in August of 2025. So it's just a little over $2, maybe $2.25 to ride a bus. And this gives you up to 60 minutes of usage. So you can transfer to different bus lines as long as you tap your card when you enter within the first 60 minutes of that first initial tap. There's always something going on in London. But speaking of pricing, the tube is more expensive than buses. It starts at 280 British pounds for shorter rides in the downtown city center area, zone 1, during off-peak hours. If you take it during the peak hours, it's gonna cost, the starting cost is gonna be $360, and it might go up depending on how far you go. It does add up. If you go further away, it might cost $10, $15, $20, or even $25. That is what I paid a couple of days ago when I was riding the tube and also the overground just outside of London for a special event. So keep that in mind. If you want to know how much your trip is going to cost, riding the bus is a lot easier to predict than taking the tube, because it can vary between $280 and all the way up to $15, $20, $25, and you never know. You have to check the zones, and you have to see what time you're taking it. Everything is calculated based on what time and what location you enter the system, and also when you exit, you have to tap that same card, and that's gonna be the way they calculate where you exit as well, and what time and what location. The good part is that you can use your credit card, and it's pretty easy. You don't have to install any additional apps or buy passes or figure out how to use it. All you have to do is just tap any major credit card when you enter the bus. You don't need to tap it when you exit. Or if you're using the tube or overground or underground train, you have to tap it when you enter and then tap it again when you exit, which is a pretty awesome way to attract more transit users. It's very easy. You don't have to do anything else. Just tap your credit card and that's it. There is also fare capping, which means there is a certain threshold. Above that amount, you're not going to be charged. There's a daily max. There's also a weekly max. It is a little bit tricky to calculate it if you're going outside of the city center, because they have different zones. Also, they have not only buses, but overground trains, underground trains. I have not been able to figure out exactly what my weekly limit is. I still need to wait until it's clear, the transaction is still pending, and after that I'll be able to know the amount. But chances are in your case it would be different, because again, it depends exactly on how many stations you ride, what time, how many lines, and what those fare zones are, which zone you travel to and from, and how many times and what time. Also, I did mention about air conditioning, I did mention about crowds. I did not talk about frequencies, and that is another thing that I want to point out in London. The frequencies are very short. As you can see, as we are taking this walk, there are lots of different buses passing by. Underground, there are lots of trains passing by. Usually you don't have to wait for a bus or a train for more than a couple of minutes. It comes right away. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes. It's never more than 10 minutes, which is pretty awesome. Whenever you need to go somewhere, you know that you're gonna get there without having to be stuck at the bus stop or the train station for a long time, like you often do in the United States. Where I come from in San Diego, the bus frequencies can be 30 minutes on some lines, or even 60 minutes on some lines, which is pretty crazy. Like, who wants to wait for a bus for 30 minutes or 60 minutes? It's insane. But yeah, in London, the frequencies are very short, under 10 minutes on each line. If you are fine with multiple lines, that means you're gonna get on the bus or the train almost right away. And it's very, very efficient in terms of that. The operating hours are also pretty good. Some lines run 24/7. Some lines run until late at night. So you can rely on public transportation and forget about driving completely. As far as cleanliness and comfort, generally I found the trains and the buses to be pretty clean and comfortable. They do have sometimes some weird characters riding the public transportation, but not as much in the United States. Like 99.9% of the time, you're gonna be sharing your space with just normal people like yourself. You're not gonna hear people playing loud music on their phones without headphones, or talking loudly, or yelling some kind of nonsense, or smelling bad. This is something that's expected in the United States, but it's not expected in London, at least for the most part. I did run into some strange characters here and there, but it was rather an exception than something that I got to see every day, all the time, over and over again. Now, I do want to point out one more thing. If you are taking the tube, the signage can be a little bit complicated. It's not as easy to navigate as rapid transit metro-like systems in other cities in the world. Sometimes the Google Maps or routes or any other kind of bus route or rapid transit routes tracking apps, they don't give you the platform number that you need to go to, and many stations have multiple platforms. And if you don't know the platform number, then you need to look for the destination of the train. But sometimes the destination listed in the directions on Citymapper is not the same as it is what's listed on the platform of the train. They don't have as many digital signs as they do in some other cities. And some lines, they kind of have like multiple branches that deviate, and then you end up going somewhere else. I did get lost a couple of times. I took the wrong train, even though it was the right line and the right direction, but it still went somewhere else. So that is something you need to keep in mind. If you don't want to like spend your time and energy trying to figure out which train to take, and then dealing with multiple transfers and reading the signs, and sometimes the signs are not very clear, it's better and easier to take the bus. I do think that they could have done a slightly better job with signage and making it a little bit more obvious and more straightforward for people to know where exactly they need to go, as opposed to trying to figure it out. Like, it's been over a week and I'm still lost whenever I enter the subway system, which is kind of unexpected for someone like me who's using metro systems all over the world. I remember my experience in other cities with big systems. Tokyo was very complicated, and London makes me think of Tokyo because it's easy to get lost in Tokyo and it's easy to get lost in London. But other cities like Seoul, Taipei, and even Paris, I did not remember having such an experience as far as getting lost on the subway or on the tube. Is there anything else that I haven't mentioned about public transportation? I believe I have covered a lot, actually. If there's anything I did not mention, you can leave a comment below and ask, and I'll add that in my future videos, or I'll just reply to your comment directly on YouTube or whichever platform you're using to watch this video. And I also want to point out that as an active traveler and business owner with experience, I might be able to assist you with trip planning, life coaching, and business consulting, with all the details available at buymeacoffee.com/transitnomad. This is where you'll also find lots of exclusive content on many different cities across the globe, my helpful tips, PDF guides, and the option to request a custom video on any topic that matters to you. Thank you everyone for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.